According to what I read, the only season that we're guaranteed to see him at the moment is 2019. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but the thing is this, that Tom Brady has publicly stated on many occasions he'd like to play till he's 45. That's a very amazing goal, and I think we've now reached a point where we can't totally dismiss it as a fantasy. He is unlike anyone else that we've dealt with in this regard, both physically and emotionally, mentally. He's so mentally tough and he's so focused, and of course we all know about the TB12 body regimen that's enabled him to play this long. One other thing is that his whole relationship with this franchise is unlike that any other star player has had, certainly with this one, or almost anywhere else in any sport that I know of. We all kid about how he's taken the one for the team, contractually speaking, over the years, and sometimes it turns out to be not quite as much as we think, but the fact is, compared to what most anybody else would have done, it was taking one for the team. He does not have that psychic need to be the highest paid player, the highest paid quarterback. He doesn't have that, and so many others in so many sports have that. That has benefited this franchise. All I can say is we're going to have him this year, and he wants to play even longer. And though you know it's harder, you know, you can't touch the quarterback the way you used to. Fact of the matter is, the quarterback is always one cheap shot away from bad things happening. So enjoy him while you can.
Jackie, George Blanda was 48 years old when he kicked, actually, in an NFL game, but he had been a kicker the last 6 or 7 years of his career and was 41, I think, the last time when he started as a quarterback. From where you sit, is what Tom Brady is saying he wants to do realistic?
Oh, I think so. But I understand why the Patriots look at it as a year-to-year proposition also, because we've all been around elite athletes, and you never know when the cliff is coming, but when it comes, they fall off that cliff. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that Tom Brady's about to do it. I see no evidence of it, and I can understand why it would be nice for him to have the 2-year deal that turns out to be just the 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. But I do understand where the Patriots are coming from. I would also say this. How would you like to be Robert Kraft, the man that decides Tom Brady's going to play for somebody else? I just don't ever see that happening. Mm-hmm. Robert and Tom have a very, very close relationship, and I think Bill Belichick is more pragmatic. That's his job, to be pragmatic and to look at the future of his team and to be disconnected from his players to a certain degree, although I think that's publicly maybe one thing and privately quite another. I think that's a little bit overblown, frankly, at times. So when I look at Brady, it's interesting, Bob, you said you couldn't think of another athlete. I can think of one, and it's Tim Duncan. And It's not surprising to me that the San Antonio Spurs and the New England Patriots are compared to, their franchises are compared to one another all the time, because Duncan did the same kind of thing. Didn't care about being the highest paid, didn't care about being the face of the franchise even, didn't even care about being on their logos and all that, and took discounts over and over again, and created a culture along with his coach, Greg Popovich, that I think is very similar to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And I've asked both coaches, Greg was a little more forthcoming than Bill was with me about it, but both of them agreed that they've spoken to one another, that they have high regard for one another, and they've learned from one another and how they've gone about their business.
Max, you wimped out when you were 33, so I don't know whether you... I really should talk about this, but do you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm amazed I see Tom Brady playing as long as he has. I mean, once I got to 33, I remember shooting the ball for the last time and saying that was it. And I didn't even think anymore about playing. But I tell you, it's a different regiment now in the way that guys control their bodies. We talk about what he does with his whole company of staying in shape. My first year in the league was 1977. And I remember distinctly, Bob, you remember just as well as I did, but my first game ever as a rookie, I am sitting there, and this is how guys didn't take care of their bodies. It was halftime, and all of a sudden, I see JoJo White, a great player, great friend of mine. All of a sudden, I see him, and he starts to smoke a cigarette in the locker room. I'm like, oh, man, he's smoking a cigarette. And I'm about to tell him, and I looked up at the board, and your guy, Tommy Heinsohn, was my head coach. He was smoking, too. So I was just, like, amazed to see, you know, how guys take care of their bodies now comparably. My first year in the league, they did not want you to lift weights. They did not want you to do that. And now we see how it is so beneficial to what you do as a player. I mean, one thing you mentioned, I think that, Bob mentioned, and you mentioned out there, and I'll take even further, the fact that you said that Tom Brady doesn't need all this attention because his wife makes more money than him.
Yeah.
That is not a bad deal to have. So I think that you look at it from that standpoint. I think the attention and what he gets as a player, we're going to look back on this era and we're just going to be absolutely astounded. And I can't say it will never happen again, but I want to say it will never probably happen again the way he's playing.